Good evening and welcome to Special Assignment. I'm your host, Ashraf Garda. In tonight's episode, we explore the illegal enterprise of a secretive drug that has flourished in the underground. A bill which was recently introduced in Parliament wants to legalize the Dagga plant for medical, commercial and industrial use. However, we found that a huge backyard illegal network of medical cannabis producers already exists. But without the proper legislation in place, it appears Dagga's medical cure has become its curse. This was the case with IFP MP Mario Oriani Ambrosini, a cancer sufferer who developed serious health complications from medical cannabis. He is the main proponent of the Medical Innovation Bill to legalize Dagga. This report by Frank Farrow.
Moving from the shadows of prohibition as an illegal mind-altering drug into Parliament, where politicians have ignited the Dagga debate.
There is no rational argument for continuing to deprive medical marijuana to people like me who need it. It is a crime against humanity.
Some cancer sufferers are already seeing the benefits of a drug that is easily available on the black market.
I know for a fact, as a cancer patient, medical marijuana absolutely and immediately took the nerve pain and the neuropathy away from me.
But how safe is the controversial drug when used in an oil form to fight cancer?
As we've discovered with Mario, we tested his blood and we found there was arsenic in the blood and in the urine.
Meanwhile, this leading toxicologist sees the legalization of medical Dagga as just an excuse to smoke the drug.
I can't see, for instance, a hospital where you have a ward where you have Dagga smokers to treat certain disease states. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Meanwhile, the mounting pressure to legalize Dagga has never been greater. Could this be medical marijuana's moment as it makes it from the underground into the mainstream? In Marcus Garvey on the outskirts of Cape Town, a group of Rastas settled in the 90s. Here, they exercised their traditions, religious beliefs and culture. Inside the tabernacle, a Rastafarian priest celebrates Mass with a reading from the book.
Beginning and now and forevermore shall the I word be forever and ever. Jah!
In some faiths, wine is recognized as a religious sacrament. Here, smoking the holy herb is an integral part of the Rastafarian religion.
The importance of smoking ganja, we see it from the book, from the Psalm 18, where they tell us that smoke was coming out of the nostrils. So, where you see that when you smoke, when not to say smoke, when you burn marijuana in the temple, you chase away the evil, and there is inspiration that you get because this is an ancient tradition.
The clouds of smoke are overwhelming, with men and women smoking the drug. The men light a Dagga pipe as they puff and pass on the holy herb, transcending them into a state of well-being. 70-year-old Mama B says Dagga is a way of life for the Rastafarian people.
I use herb in every aspect. I cook with it, I make a tea with it, I eat it even raw. Sometimes I pick a nice bud and I eat like that. Because it heals Mama B from many sicknesses.
Meanwhile, in a Constantia home, an affluent suburb of Cape Town, Donna Lee Smirren is fighting cancer. Her morning ritual comprises a cocktail of homeopathic remedies, a mistletoe injection, a tincture, and a cannabis oil cream, which she rubs on her cancerous tumors.
During radiation therapy after chemo, I had been taking small amounts of medical marijuana in food and tinctures that were given to me from a chemist in California, in San Francisco, that really helped with the neuropathy and the nerve pain that I was getting, and also the nausea. If I used it, I wasn't throwing up. And so I started reading about medical cannabis and started learning a lot of studies were going on around the world using medical cannabis for breast cancer or brain cancer or prostate cancer, and the studies were showing that it was stopping tumor growth.
Dagga, when smoked, ingested or used in an oil form, is an illegal substance. It carries a minimum prison sentence of 2 years behind bars. Rastafarian lawyer Gareth Prince has been barred from his chosen profession for smoking Dagga.
If you do not promote the war. At the time when I started to be a Rastafari, that is the time when this conflict started. And as a student, I was arrested in my second year at university for being in possession of cannabis. And that is ultimately what has led to the Law Society saying that I am not fit and proper to be a member of the legal fraternity, thus preventing me from practicing in the profession that I studied 7 years for.
Prince maintains that Rastafarians are often arrested, banished and ostracized for smoking Dagga, which he says is a violation of their human rights. Although Dr. Mario Oriani Ambrosini primarily advocates for the liberalization of medical marijuana, he doesn't condemn those who smoke it.
To me, that's a vice. But you don't put people in jail for a vice. If people want to smoke marijuana, why not? It's not something I would do. But it's the same thing as drinking. There are no cases of people who died of marijuana. To have a fatal dose of marijuana, you would need to smoke 600 kilos within 3 hours.
A recent study by the South African Anti-Drug Alliance found that the war on drugs, primarily Dagga, is costing taxpayers millions of rand annually.
99% of all the drugs confiscated was Dagga. So everybody immediately starts looking a little bit differently. So we know immediately now that Dagga is our major problem. At the end of the day, just to get the people into court and to get them processed through the system, the 23,000 people that were arrested, it cost our country just on 40 million rand.
Helen Suzman, a fierce critic of the apartheid government, called for Dagga to be legalized more than a decade ago.
It is not an aggressive-making drug at all, and to my mind it's totally absurd to send people to prison for being in possession of a small amount of Dagga.
Julian Stobes and his wife Myrtle are recreational Dagga smokers. 3 years ago they were arrested for possession. Commonly known as the Dagga couple, they've since turned activists. Stobes was delighted when he heard that the legalization of Dagga was being debated in Parliament.
We can't believe it. If we thought a year ago that this would be happening now, we wouldn't believe you. Myrtle and I have been looking for a lobbyist in Parliament for years. We figured that if we could get somebody interested in the cannabis plant for whatever reason, for medicine, for recreation, for whatever it is, for industry, then we would have a much better chance of our voices being heard. And then lo and behold, Dr. Mario Ambrosini stood up in Parliament and told everybody about his condition and how he was treating it, and tabled the medical innovation bill.
However, as a terminally ill patient suffering from an advanced stage of lung cancer, Mario says the bill is not for him, and it could be a while yet before Dagga is legalized, if at all. What you're doing is illegal. How do you view it?
It is illegal, and there are hundreds of thousands of people who are doing it illegally. And I am a member of Parliament. I bear the responsibility of giving a voice to people. That's how laws are changed. Unless people have the courage of standing up and say the law is wrong, the illegality is wrong, the laws don't change. One needs to take personal risks.
In a moment, we explore the controversial use of medical marijuana to fight cancer.
Dr. Mario Oriani Ambrosini is in a frail state and emotionally depleted. We spoke to him in his office at Parliament soon after he got back from a trip overseas. He's been taking high doses of morphine to manage the pain.
There's an impact on my brain, it puts me to sleep. There's an impact on my liver, and it requires ever increasing quantities. So more morphine, more sleep, and at the end one dies. One dies of morphine. While I could be alive with cannabis, and I can't have a drink, while I can have a drink with cannabis.
When chemotherapy was not an option for Mario, because of the advanced stage of his cancer, he went on a journey, exploring other forms of treatment.
The most absurd of all the situations is with cannabis, because there the effectiveness of cannabis for curative purposes, not only for management purposes, has long been proven. It works with the pain, it works as a cure for many types of cancers, not because Ambrosini says so, but because Harvard University says so. And there are no downside, there are no side effects, and it's prohibited. It's an absurdity which goes beyond irrationality. It's really a crime.
Donna Lee Smirren was diagnosed with a type of blood cancer a few years ago. Whilst living in the United States, she used medical cannabis, which slowed down her tumors. She's been offered the drug locally, which is widely available, but she says she doesn't trust the source.
Right now, I'm unable to receive any medical marijuana or medical cannabis from any entity in South Africa that I know is regulated. And what's been offered to me is kind of under the underground market, and nobody can tell me the strain, how many cannabidiols are in there to THC, and I don't want to put stuff into my body that I don't know whether it's medicine like I used in California.
Scientific studies have shown that cannabinoids, an active ingredient of the Dagga plant, enters the bloodstream when taken. The cannabinoids then seeks out the cancerous cells, destroying them whilst leaving the healthy cells intact. In America, the green rush has spread like wildfire, with 20 states now legalizing the use of medical marijuana. The weed is also available in 2 states for adult use.
Each state has their own medical use of marijuana program. So in California, it's up to individual municipalities to regulate the dispensaries. And there's just basically, it's what you do is either legal or illegal under the state level. Massachusetts is the other end of the spectrum, where I currently live and practice mostly, where it's very, very highly regulated. It's a health care initiative. The Department of Public Health, a state agency in Massachusetts, oversees it. And they've done an excellent job of putting together detailed, thorough regulations to make sure that marijuana only winds up in the hands of qualified patients, and it's not just a recreational thing.
However, medical marijuana remains an illegal drug under federal law.
Marijuana is seen under federal law as a Schedule I controlled substance, which means by definition that it has no accepted medical use and has a high probability of abuse.
Dr. Raul Goldberg is a medical doctor and a leading integrative medical practitioner. He recently tested Mario's blood as he wasn't feeling too well.
As we've discovered with Mario, and it's with his permission that I can say this publicly, we tested his blood and we found there was arsenic in the blood and in the urine. Arsenic in the blood or urine is metabolized very quickly, so it will only be present if there's a continuous supply of that contamination.
Mario developed serious health complications from the treatment. He stopped using the tainted cannabis because it could be life-threatening.
The cannabis I was taking was contaminated with arsenic. And myself and 200 people got it from the same source. And they ended up having arsenic poisoning because it was grown on soils, on damp mines, probably.
In spite of the potential health risks, there's a huge demand for medical Dagga. This has fueled an illegal underground market with millions of rand.
There's a black market for the cannabis that people smoke recreationally. That's one thing. But there will be, you can be sure, a black market developing for the cannabis oil, because as the market demands it, of course, it has to be provided. I would urge that the Department of Health and the government take this very seriously and support this, this now campaign to legalize the medical cannabis.
Dagga activist Julian Stobbs appears to have inside knowledge on the cannabis oil trade.
Dr. Ambrosini is using a suppository. I don't know many people that are, but Dr. Ambrosini is using the suppository purely because he thinks it negates the stone feeling, the THC feeling. So he's on an incredible dosage of this stuff.
Easily available?
Not that easy. We've got to be paranoid about it. Right now, you and I are breaking the law by it being anywhere around it. It's not that easily available, but there are networks of people around South Africa who know people who can get in touch with people.
However, Dr. Gert Miller, a leading toxicologist, maintains that more research needs to be done.
It's very early to say whether it's really effective or not. Too few patients have actually been intensively put in clinical trials. Although there are promising, if one can call it promising, results as far as the treatment of certain leukemias are concerned.
The controversial Medical Innovation Bill could pave the way for more research. Medical cannabis is already legal in some countries across the globe.
The information is out there. People are self-medicating themselves. And we need to bring all this within one single center, specialized hospitals, where the experience can be gained not on an individual but on a collective basis, and where we can become leaders of cancer treatments.
Dr. Ambrosini has served South Africa for 23 years. Going public wasn't easy for him. But when he approached IFP leader Mangosuthu Buthelezi to ask his permission, he knew he had done the right thing.
I had enormous support from all my colleagues, not only from my own party, but from other political parties, which proves that this is an issue which should not be a political issue. And I had main support from my leader, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who is an extraordinary man. When I discussed with him my bill and the political consequences of it, and I asked for his permission, he did not ask me what the political consequences would be. He asked me a simple question. He says, "Doctor, what does your conscience dictate of you? And if that's what your conscience dictates of you, go ahead and do it."
President Jacob Zuma has asked the Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi to look into the issue.
Coming up next, we look at the potential commercial and industrial spin-offs of the Dagga plant.
High on a hill in Noordhoek on the outskirts of Cape Town is the Hemp House. Its owner is Tony Budden, a hemp entrepreneur. He says there exists a fear for the Dagga plant because of its psychotropic effects.
The major challenge that we've faced is what I call canophobia, and it's this immense fear of the plant. The minute someone sees that leaf, they immediately picture what's making their workers lazy, or what's making their kids fail at school, or there's this propaganda that's been put against the plant.
So what is the difference between hemp and Dagga? We asked Dagga activist Julian Stobbs.
They're both the same. It depends on how you grow them. If you want to grow socks and shirts and shoes and things, you grow a Dagga plant this far apart, and you train it so it goes 4 meters up in the air as one single stem, because that's the bit you need to make the rope. And at the top of it is a flowering head of cannabis that you could smoke and use as medicine, as recreation, as whatever you wanted to do.
Tony discovered the commercial and industrial values of hemp way back in 1996. The hemp he uses is all imported from overseas, and what better way to demystify the controversies around Dagga but to make clothes from it.
You need to be able to separate these from the stalk. This goes into your textiles. Everything I'm wearing is made from this. It can also go into making natural paper. You can see the cellulose is nice and white, so you don't need to bleach it like you would have to do with hardwoods. And then the remainder, what's left behind, this is called the hurd, the inside, basically is very absorbent. So you mix that with lime to make products like this. This is hempcrete. This is a natural cement.
The hemp used to build Tony's home took 4 months to grow, and it took another 6 months to build his house. The Medical Innovation Bill tabled in Parliament aims to look at poverty alleviation by growing hemp as a cash crop.
On the commercial industrial side, one would identify special strains which have got very little psychoactive components, and usually hemp does, and they can be grown under supervised circumstances, as it happens in other countries. China is making huge investments on hemp because they've identified it being the product of the future.
Tony says although South Africa has done extensive research into hemp, it's lagging behind other countries.
We've done 15 years or more of research in South Africa at the moment, which means we have fallen behind because Canada started at the same time as us. They're already growing 60,000 acres of hemp, and the American hemp industry is worth about 5 billion rand.
In the United States, demand for the leafy plant is a growing business. Medical cannabis generates billions of dollars in tax revenue annually.
If you implement a very highly regulated program and tax it, you'll see that incredible tax revenues. For instance, with our population in Massachusetts of 6.5 million people at a 5% tax rate, that's $23 million, in excess of $23 million in tax revenue per year, just at a 5% tax rate. If you look in Colorado, the tax rate has been, it can be as high as 21% for marijuana sales. So it's an incredible amount of revenue.
However, Julian Stobes warns that putting too much tax on Dagga could drive the market further underground.
There will be a rush, yeah, and there'll certainly be a gold rush of show me the money, honey. There's a huge amount of money involved in it, but it will stabilise, and as we see in America, the prices will drop. And incidentally, in Colorado, the black market is it's very buoyant, thank you very much, because it's $230 an ounce on the black market and $400 an ounce in a dispensary. They've outpriced themselves. They've put too much tax on it. They're too greedy.
Meanwhile, in Marcus Garvey, there are high hopes that the holy herb could be legalized.
It's a billion-dollar crop. And in terms of health benefits for our people, there are lots and lots of cases of people who've used the herb underground as much as it's been criminalized, but they have got benefits. So we as the people who stand out up and loud and say, free marijuana.
Now, what's your take on this issue? Well, you can comment on Twitter using the special assignment hashtag, Facebook us on our official fan page, or you have the option to email us. Well, thank you for watching, and do join us again next week when we point out the issues that matter.